Throughout history, freethinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizvi and Armin Navabi.
Mars is asking a question about Jordan Peterson. Did he show any sign of having evolved his thinking? Interesting question. Okay, so let me continue with that question. His event with Matt Dillahunty, I would have thought would have made him change his views or at least be more clear. I think he was a bit more prepared for Sam. I think he underestimated because he talks about the atheist community as if like they're teenagers, the way they talk about religion, that they don't understand it. I think his debate with Matt made it clear to him that he doesn't know what he's dealing with, like that he needs to be more prepared when he's talking to atheist activists like Matt Dillahunty. Matt Dillahunty have been debating these topics for ages. So, and it was pretty clear that I think in that debate, Matt had the upper hand. And I think for Sam, he came more prepared, but I still think, I mean, I'm biased. I'm pretty sure any Jordan Peterson fan is going to say, no, Jordan did a better job. But I think that, I honestly think that Sam crushed it, even though Jordan Peterson came more prepared. And to be fair to him, he Jordan went out of his way to try to steelman Sam and he started the whole thing by trying to see if he understands Sam's position, try to explain it back to him, see if it's a fair way of explaining his position. It was very good. It was a very good way of starting the debate. And actually in the second day, the moderator was fantastic. Debates between Sam and Jordan previously on the podcast, they got hung up on like definitions and they just got stuck on something and they didn't move past it. And a lot of people found it annoying. And I think Brett Weinstein as a moderator, even though he didn't talk much, the very little involvement that he had was perfect. The way he made sure the conversation keeps moving forward and doesn't get so hung up on details. And sometimes when one side wasn't understanding the other side, he tried to rephrase it and explain it and ask the other person, was that a good explanation of that? It was fantastic. It was having Brett as a moderator, I think, made the whole experience much better than what we heard on the podcast that they had with each other. And another thing that you asked, where did the question go? When you asked, did he show any sign of having evolved? One thing that I don't know if you could call it evolved is that he actually finally came up with a definition for God, which is something that he seemed to refuse to do before. But he went through a whole paragraph for his definition. There was a whole bunch. I mean, I'm not going to go over his definition. I'll let you watch that when the video is out. But what Sam really quickly noticed in that definition, which is a very long definition, was that it had nothing to do with the God that most of us talk about when we talk about God. When we talk about God, we're talking about the conscious creator of the universe. And that is not at all what Jordan Peterson means when he's talking about God. And most of the things that his definition for God was like a list of different things. Many of them not having to do much with each other, but almost all of them we know to be exist, like things that most of us wouldn't disagree on the fact that they exist, right? And that's basically the traditional way of dancing around proving God by just redefining God to something that we already know that exists, and therefore God exists. I mean, there's nothing new about that. And Sam really fast picked up on that and be like, well, none of what you said is God, the God that most people talk about. And he said, this is not a God that cares whether we masturbate or not, which is a very funny example that Sam gave, which completely changed the conversation to, I think they talked about half an hour at the end of the first event, they talked about masturbation, which was interesting. You guys should, when the video comes out eventually, you guys have to watch it. But that was very interesting to see. Wow, I missed out a whole bunch of live chat stuff. Let me see what I missed. So Harris Sultan is saying Matt Dillahunty, who wouldn't be in league with Peterson on any other subject, destroyed Peterson on his God position. Well, because Matt that's good. The God debate is Matt's expertise, right? And there's no way you could bullshit around that when you have Matt on stage with you, right? Let's see if there's any questions. The only difference is Deepak uses the word quantum and Peterson uses story. You know, guys, you should watch this debate because actually Sam brought that up. That comparison, which was very funny to actually hear it being said to Jordan Peterson, that comparison. Okay, so Mars is saying, I heard JP still dance around when trying to make his points. Technically it was still dancing around, but it was a little bit more clear than before, because before going on this debate, Jordan posted on Twitter asking people what was the main question that they wanted to answer. And this was to his own followers. And Jordan wanted to get away with never defining God, saying it's too complicated, you can't define it. Forget about it. Like, it's just way too complicated. You have to read my reading list of 100 books and then for us to be able to scratch the surface of blah, blah, blah. But so and I think it has to do a lot with the fact that he kind of must know deep inside that, that's, the definition that comes with, of God, the traditional, the common definition, which is the conscious creator, it's an impossible position to defend. He must know that. But the thing is that a lot of his followers are Christian. So maybe, I don't know, unconsciously or intentionally, he doesn't want to go there because of a lot of followers are Christian and he just doesn't want to. So, but then when he posted that poll on Twitter before the debate, the top question, I don't know, it was number one question that people voted for, or number two question. Most top voted question was define God. Like, not about what do you think about God? Do you believe in God? Do you consider yourself a Christian? How do you prove God? No, it was define God, right? So, because so I think he understood before going to this debate that people want to know what he means by God. So, he actually wrote it down and basically had it prepared, reading it, right? So, but it seemed it was very complicated definition. It was a very long definition. And then right after that, even though he came up with definition, it was still dancing around it. But this is an interesting thing is a lot of people that think he's profound. I don't know if they know this, but this is one of the, I mean, even I'm a nobody and I wrote the book, Why There Is No God. And I have an entire chapter dedicated to this method of dancing around proving God by just using things pointing to things that we already know exist, energy, love, I don't know, math, whatever started the universe. You could name your cat God and your cat exists, therefore God exists. But the thing is that that's not what people mean when they say, and actually, here's one thing I would say to you what happened. Sam Harris came up with the perfect example. It was such a beautiful example. And he said, you could ask me if I believe in ghosts. And if you ask me that, my answer to you would be no, because we understand what you mean by ghost. But then if you come and say, well, what about your relationship with the unknown? Do you understand that there are some things that we don't see, we don't understand? And that's what I mean by ghosts, our relationship with the unknown. And that's what it represents, some bullshit thing like that. And if you define it like that, then I'm like, okay, yeah, I believe in ghosts in the way you're explaining it. But we understand that that's not what people mean when they say ghosts, right? Your definition, that's not Christianity. That's not Abrahamic religions. That's not God. That's your made up definition. Here's a very interesting thing, because a lot of people are like, what's wrong with that? Well, let's come up with a definition for God and let's stay with that. There's a million problems with that. But two problems that I want to touch on is a lot of their arguments for why Christianity shouldn't just be, dismissed as irrelevant and barbaric and ancient, and you shouldn't just throw away the baby with bathwater, and there's valuable things in there. They say that Western civilization and our modern culture, modern values are based on Christianity and all that nonsense. They say that one of the main arguments behind why that is true is because Christianity has been around for so long. It's been around for so long. It cannot have been useless if it could not have been useless if it survived for this long. There must be something in there. There must be a lot of things within Christianity that we rely on that getting rid of it, we don't know what's going to happen, what's going to take its place. And then at the same time, when we point out that this new God, this new whatever definition of God they have is new and has nothing to do with what Christianity is all about, and has nothing to do, is most definitely had nothing to do with whoever is responsible for writing the different books in the Bible. They're like, well, yeah, but we're looking at things in a new way. Well, which one is it then? Is this something that has been around for so long and that's why it's valuable, or is it new? Because if it's new, all those arguments for us having to keep this because it's ancient, even though even if that was true, that's a bullshit argument. Old doesn't mean good. But even if it was a good argument, now you're saying it's okay to have new things. This has nothing to do with the Christianity. You're not a Christian. This is a Jordan Peterson religion. I don't know what it is. Jordanism. Let me see if I missed what I missed in the live chat. Guys, can you tag Secular Jihadists so I can make sure that I didn't miss anything? Hi, Armin. Wait, I don't know how far. What's up with blasphemy? Are we talking? Well, let's focus it on Jordan Peterson. That's the main Q&A we have for today. Or else you guys want to change it up a bit. Let's go lower. Let me see. So, oh, you guys are talking about something else. You guys are talking about Tommy Robinson now. Do you guys want to talk about Tommy Robinson, or can we keep it on Jordan Peterson? Vote in the live chat. Anyways, I'm going to continue talking about Jordan Peterson until you guys decide. let's go back to, keep it, Peterson. Okay, everyone is saying keep it up, Jordan Peterson. All right, can we keep the discussion on, keep this debate between you guys? And I already have a hard time keeping track, so we could do, what I could do is, like, we could do another entire video about Tommy Robinson later. Do you think Jordan Peterson has such a status right now because the left has tarred him? That's interesting. Let me see if I understand what you're saying. Do you think that because the left attacking Jordan Peterson, he became such a big deal? Is that what you're suggesting? Because that seems to be the trend. Like, I don't understand. I mean, not everybody, not all, hashtag not all, again. Okay. If you're on the left, I'm not saying everybody on the left is. Okay. We have a lot of problems on the left. We have a lot of problems on the right as well. But again, hashtag not all. But it seems like a lot of the tactics from the extreme left when it comes to silencing people backfires. Every single person that they try to shut down in response to their efforts of shutting them, trying to be shut down, they got famous, and they become a household name, or they managed to get a global audience. I don't know if they care, but they should rethink how they're doing this. Like, I think now everyone wants to be kicked out of a university or somewhere, because that seems to be the first step to making it to people noticing you. So yeah, if you get kicked out of a university or deplatformed somewhere, now you're going to get a lot of invitations. So I don't know. They have to see that this is backfiring, which is beautiful, by the way, because it's the same way when Muslims try to shut down people when it comes to drawing Muhammad or other stuff. It backfires, and all of a sudden now we have an annual event for it. It's good that it backfires, because people see that you can't silence people if you try. Actually, you're amplifying their voices. But yeah, I think that's what is happening. But let me see. So I don't like JP's religious stuff, but I do agree with him on other things. So that's what Super Jimmy is saying. Yeah, but the thing is that his religious stuff is the most important. And this is why I think this weekend's event was such a historic event. I do think Jordan Peterson does represent the last attempts of the dying ideology that is Christianity to remain relevant. And I think he's like one of the last standing soldiers for Christianity. I think Islam is still growing. I think Christianity is on the decline. I think atheism is growing. Ex-Muslim movement is growing. Islam is growing. Ethno-nationalism is growing. But I think Christianity is becoming, even among people that will say Christian, is becoming less of an influence in the next, 50 years or so. Not so much with Islam, unfortunately. And I think that what I noticed was that even among a lot of atheists, because of seeing Islam as a growing threat, they looked at Christianity as something that might have been what we need to, keep up the resistance. Even if they don't believe in it, they might have thought that maybe this is something that was responsible for our culture, for our identity, for what made us civilized. And even if it's not true, maybe it's such a deep part of our identity. And without having a strong identity, this new identity is coming up and taking over. And maybe we should just hang on to it a bit longer because of the threat of Islam. And somebody like Jordan Peterson was very interesting, because he was making a lot of Christians that hope that Christianity could be very relevant. The Bible could be relevant even in the secular world, because most of their arguments are so dumb that somebody that sounds intelligent, that sounds like he has intelligent arguments, becoming so famous, becoming so well known, was such a major champion for them. And a lot of atheists I talk to that used to be Christian, now they're atheists because of, I heard a lot of them tell me, I actually interviewed a lot of them at the event. Those videos will be coming out publicly as well. My interviews with people in the audience. A lot of atheists were giving Christianity another chance, right? As metaphors, as stuff that you could get good values and good lessons from. And they think, and they say Jordan Peterson was responsible for them changing their views on that. And this is why I mean, I don't, Jordan Peterson's views on free speech and other stuff, I don't think that he is a major force on that. I think there's a lot of people, there are a lot of people that are fighting that fight. I think what he did, what I was scared of was the fact that he was such a big force, such a, warrior for Christianity and keeping it relevant and, bringing it, it was basically seems like one of the final attempts at showing how the Bible is not something that you could just dismiss, that is important in our daily lives, that it's something that you should value. And I am so against that. And I think that Sam was right now, Sam is the most popular speaker when it comes to from the atheist community. I know a lot of people have their disagreements with him, but he is right now the most demanded speaker when it comes from the atheist community. And when it comes to Christianity, I think Jordan Peterson represented Christianity. And to me, this seemed like I would mark today as this weekend as and the upcoming. They're going to continue these debates. By the way, I'm going to go there as well in London and Dublin. They're going to continue these. By the way, I don't know if tickets are available, but if you're in London and Dublin, don't miss out on these events. And by the way, I'm totally biased because I also work for Pangburn Philosophy, which offers these events. But these are, I do think that these represented like one of the final battles between two major rising ideologies, which is, and a lot of people were like, oh, atheism is not an ideology. It's not, but atheist activism and secularism is, okay? And I do think this represented one of the major battles, starting with Matt Dillahunty and then finishing it off with Sam. What I was happy to see was a lot of atheists that were convinced by Jordan Peterson kind of changed their minds a little bit after seeing the debates with Matt, and even at this event after watching Sam and Jordan having a debate. And an interesting one is, you guys know Yasmin Mohammed was at the first event, and I think I got this on camera as well, which we'll be releasing later. She mentioned that she thought that Jordan would have much better arguments for his side, and she thinks that after watching the first, she said that she doesn't think that he himself really is clear to himself what he means by Christianity or God. So not only he doesn't have a strong defense for it, he doesn't even know where he stands. So with seeing As, I think again, I might be misrepresenting her. So I'll let her, you could talk to her, ask her what she thought about the event in case I'm misrepresenting her. But hey, you guys have some more questions. Somebody tagged me, which is very helpful. Ace tagged me saying, many ancient ideologies no longer exist, yet society has moved on. Oh, exactly. Moved on. If we add religion to the list, it would be the same way. That's such a good point. Like Greek ideology, mythology died. We're not missing them. People are not like, how are we surviving without Greek? The thing is that a lot of these people have this idea that the Bible brought these values, right? And one thing I want to do, first of all, there's no fucking, what values? Every time people are like, yeah, but it's all bullshit and God is not real, but there are some good lessons in there. And every time I ask them, give me an example, and I never hear a good answer to that. Give me one example, one thing that is worth keeping. There's not even one. It's not like there's some good in there, some bad in there. There's nothing that is worth preserving. The only thing that is interesting about the Bible is if you look at it as a historical document, if you try to understand how did these people come up with these stuff, what were they thinking, where did they get this verse from, where did that story come from? Oh, this seems like they copied this from here. Oh, that's so interesting and cool, and tells you about history, tells you about how memes evolve and how ideas get, how ideas evolve and how, that's interesting, right? But to think that the people that wrote the Bible, there seems to be this understanding that even if the writers of the Bible weren't talking about, even if Jesus was not real, or even if he wasn't resurrected, these writers, they had some deep understanding of psychology and conscious and what motivates us and about the state of civilization and natures and what makes us progress and what hurts us. And they just hid all this valuable information into these stories and somehow, like, in a very clever way, are trying to communicate this with us. Where are you getting that from? There was a million other stories written in the same time from different places, and they were all nonsense. How, like, isn't the more likely explanation that they actually believe that this dude was literally crucified to a fucking cross, and then his body an actual body went up to heaven and he's going to come back? Isn't that the more likely scenario? And if these writers really had that much understanding about all of this stuff, first of all, where did they get that from? Is it not more likely that their understanding of our psychology was the same as the people around them, which is not that much at that time? Isn't it more likely that this is just the same amount of, if they were this wise and have this much knowledge about, for some reason, among people that didn't have that knowledge, they had more understanding about civilization and all this other stuff that Jordan Peterson, that it says that we today would not understand unless we go through his reading list and think about these and go through, get like a fucking PhD and stuff. Then only after that, we would be able to scratch the surface. But these writers back then who wrote the Bible, they didn't have access to all this knowledge, but they figured it out, but why didn't they just say it then? Why did I have to hide it in fucking stories? And here's another thing I don't understand. They say, oh, stories, metaphors are valuable, and this is no, stories are a horrible way to communicate. Stories are good for entertaining. Stories are good for just sitting down and relaxing and enjoying. If you want to tell me how my fucking brain works, if you want to tell me, write me a self-help book, just fucking tell me. Don't give me a fucking story. Just fucking tell me. If you think that, civilizations will survive better because if we do this and not do that, if this is how, just fucking say it. Don't hide it behind the story. Because if you hide it behind a story, we need like fucking Jordan Peterson to go get we need people to go get PhDs and stuff. And even then they say like, I don't know, it's complicated. Well, if you knew it, then why did you make it so fucking complicated? Why did you hide it behind metaphors? Just fucking say it. All right. Once we understand it, after that, if we want to get entertained, we will use these facts and say it in a story, and we could be entertained with stories. That's what stories are good for. They're not good for clear communication. Not at all. And he seems to think that, Jordan Peterson seems to suggest that these values are in our society because of these stories. It's the other way around. People that write stories, they look at the values of people around them and they try to come up with heroes and villains based on the values of people around them. The stories reflect the values of the society at the time. They don't create the values. By the way, this meant to be a Q&A, so you guys better ask some questions, because it seems like so far it's been just me talking. Armin, here's a question. You guys are saying, Armin, if you were in a mom, you guys should put it if you guys want me to read it, just make sure you tag Secular Jihadists. But I'm going to read that one first. So Teresa is saying, Armin, if you were an imam, I would consider converting to Islam. Oh, no, don't do that. That's not a good. Actually, that's a really interesting point, because, as much as I disagree with Jordan Peterson, he's very interesting to talk to. Like, I could fall asleep listening to this guy, right? I could just if I'm meditating, I would like put some music with him talking in the background and just meditate with his voice or something. So he's like, there's a lot of passion. There's a lot of mystery in the things he talk about. Like, it's something that's entertaining. And I see why people are interested in unknown. People don't want things to be simple. People don't be like, this is how the world is. And other stuff, we don't know. What do you mean we don't know? We just tell us something. And if we know this is how it is. No, they want things to be like mysterious and, ooh, it could be this or it could be that. It's complicated. They want like mind-blowing stuff, right? And science gives you mind-blowing stuff, but a lot of mind-blowing stuff in science is hard work. Like, it's complicated. Like, you won't, like, for you to get it, you have to actually have some basic scientific understanding, and then you get some mind-blowing experience. But what if you want just mind-blowing experience without doing the hard work? So these mysterious kind of stuff, like, oh, what if God means this? And this is talking about, I don't know, the same stuff that Sufis and mystics enjoy. It's just more fun if it's more fun. This is why we enjoy, like, I don't know, superheroes or Harry Potter or Star Wars, things, but the thing is that we have to separate what entertains us from how we understand reality. Because this is why when people talk passionately, when people talk, this is how cults of personality are created, right? That shouldn't make us this is why I like Sam as well, because he talks so monotone, right? That it's hard to, that, okay, it's not because of the passion that it's just making sense. That's why, or if it doesn't make sense, you could say, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. This makes sense to me. That's why I agree with him, right? But sometimes you just get attracted to the way somebody speaks and you just like, this has to be true. Look at the way he's speaking. And you have to be careful not to fall for that. But yeah, and this is, again, this is the old, a lot of people say reels before feels, right? And I think a lot of people that are Peterson fans are basically people that go for feels, things that feel intelligent or sound profound. they just like, if we don't agree with it, it's just because you don't get it, man. You just don't get it. You know, he's just way too smart for you to get. Same thing Christians say about the Bible. Same thing Muslims say about the Quran. You know, it's just way, you know, it's interesting because they never say that when you accept it, right? If I say, I agree with Jordan Peterson, they never say like, how could you agree with Jordan Peterson? You don't even get it, right? It's so complicated. Or if I say I'm a Muslim, I'm converting to Islam, they never say like, well, did you read these scholars? Did you read this in Arabic? Did you read the Quran in Arabic? Did you, you know, how much time did you study? They're not accepted. They welcome you into their cult right away. But when you disagree with them, then everything is way too complicated for you to understand. And you just don't get it. So Killian is saying stories are good ways to communicate for children. Well, for adults too, but no. Not way to communicate, way to entertain. Oh, you're saying it's a good way to communicate for children? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a parent. I'll let you know later once I look into that. I'm not an expert in how to bring up children. JP seems to think we all need to be taught like 5-year-olds. Yes, exactly. Mars Chang is saying, was he more clear about what he means about atheists aren't really atheists? Well, he actually repeated that at the event. He said, Sam wanted a clarification on that. And Sam says, so you're saying that I say I'm an atheist, but Sam is behaving as if he believes in God. And then Jordan responded to that in a joking saying, well, so far you have, like, we'll see how it goes. But, and he repeated the claim that he lives as if God exists. Which is, I have no idea what the fuck that means, because as if God exists, his definition of God was things that exist. So, I guess, but the thing is that his God has nothing to do with Christianity or the Bible. Has nothing to do. But he keeps on bringing up Christianity or the Bible. And in fact, the resurrection came up. And Sam, because his definition of God was so different from what other people mean by God, Sam actually brought up something specific, whether or not he thinks that Jesus was actually resurrected, like actually his body, not like, oh, sacrifice. By the way, the whole concept of sacrifice came up. So many things came up. Sacrifice came up. Masturbation came up. For a long time. They were talking about masturbation. That was really funny and interesting. Israel and Palestine came up. I wasn't expecting that. But the resurrection, the interesting part was Sam really wanted for Jordan to answer whether he actually thinks that Jesus was resurrected or not. And Jordan responded to that by saying that that's a very complicated question. Of course, that's the classic Jordan Peterson answer. And he would need 40 hours to be able to explain that. But I think Jordan, if I remember this correctly, I think Jordan made a mistake then by asking the same question to Sam. I don't know if he actually asked Sam that or Sam answered it himself. But I think if he did ask Sam, that was a mistake, because Sam then answered it in a way that made the whole audience applaud. And he showed that, because he said, like, so Sam's response to whether he thinks Jesus was resurrected or not was a clear, most probably not, right? That's how simple that answer was. It doesn't take him 40 hours. It didn't take him 10 seconds. And it's just that simple. There's nothing complicated about that. There's nothing complicated about that. Okay, so I think when it comes to Christianity and the Bible and faith and God, Jordan Peterson represents two of the most classical excuses people make for ideologies that can't be defended. And this is why I think what he's saying is not new at all. It's just his presentation is new. And the fact that he's an interesting person to listen to. And those two things are, one, this is Islam and Christianity do this. They try to claim monopoly over morality. They try to make it seem that they're responsible for most of the values that is responsible for our civilization's progress and values that are worth having versus total chaos, which nothing could be further from the truth. And the thing is that I think Christianity and Islam are such dangerous memes, and this is one of the main reasons why they have survived so long, because they again, I always compare them to like a poison pill that has a sugar coating. They have these. They're both dangerous ideologies, but a lot of other dangerous ideologies. They harmed our society. They died. Some of them are still around a little bit, but they're not as much in power as they used to. But these two fucking ancient monsters, they just don't die, right? They just keep resisting. And I think one of these two memes, one of the advantages they have is that they're not like, they have these sugar coatings. They're like, oh, be nice to your neighbor. I don't know, the meek shall inherit the earth, warm fuzzy, take care of orphans, warm fuzzy bullshit stuff. Just like, you have a shit sandwich and you just put some rainbows and butterflies around it and you just that becomes your branding. And the thing is that these memes, the fact that they survived for so long, people look at it as evolution, as like there must be something in there worth keeping. Well, that's why they've survived so long. But the thing is that, again, this is the evolution. This is the survival of the tribe versus the survival of the individual. When it comes to the survival of the tribe, the memes that survive, it doesn't mean that they're good for the individual. It might give the tribe an advantage, but it might come as a cost to individuals, but an advantage for the tribe. And that's not a good thing, right? We are not like our genes. Like, we are to our tribes like our genes are to us, okay? But we outsmarted our genes. We're doing things that our genes are not conscious. So we outsmarted them. So we have sex with condoms. That wasn't meant to happen. So we got the pleasure without actually doing what the genes wanted us to do. So we kind of like trick the system, right? We chew gum. Our taste buds are supposed to only get pleasure when we give it energy, but we came up with other ways to satisfy. I don't know. We do things not based on evolution. We're not trying to spread our genes. Our pleasure was a tool for us to spread our genes, but now the tool became the goal, and we say, fuck the genes goal. We have our own goal. The pleasure is the goal. So now us as individuals have the same relationship to the tribe as the genes have to us. But these memes are trying to outsmart us. And the fact is that they want to sacrifice our goals for the survival of the tribe. And we need to make sure that we don't get outsmarted the same way we outsmarted our own genes. Again, the tribe is not conscious. So we should be able to outsmart whatever system is that is trying to make the tribe survive. Individualism, right? We care about the happiness of individuals, not about the survival of tribes. So the fact that these things lasted for so long doesn't mean they're good for individuals. Where was I getting? Oh, so that was number one. Number one is that he tries to suggest that there's these values in there that Christianity is responsible for. And there are so many arguments against this. One of them is that most of the values people point to, human rights, free speech, I don't know, all of this good stuff, Christianity was around and these things were not around for most of the time. Only post-Enlightenment era, these values started getting introduced to society. If Christianity is responsible for it, why did it take so fucking long, right? Why is it that only post-Enlightenment, which was a movement against fucking Christianity, why is it only after that these values all of a sudden become so popular? That's one thing. Another thing is that Christianity and Abrahamic religions in general were a step backwards. Go look at the way Greek philosophers talked about ethics. Even the bullshit ones. Even some of them were good, some of them were bad. But even the ones that we now disagree with, the way they got to them was by thinking, disagreeing, debating. It wasn't like, oh, boom, it's just like light from sky, like this is God's message, this is what's good, this is what's bad. No, they debated the most fundamental, what is good, what is bad, why is good, why do we consider this good? Is it based on pleasure? Is it based on the details? I'm not going to do it justice, but if you read them, these are people that really thought about these in detail, and the amount of, the nuance that went into the discussion, and it had nothing to do with religion. Greek mythology was separate from ethics. Only Abrahamic religion all of a sudden came and demanded monopoly over ethics. Their arguments for what's ethical and what's not was based on logic. Not always good logic, but they thought that was the tool that you were supposed to use to figure this shit out. We did this for thousands of years before the Bible, before the Quran. We were doing this. We were doing it better, way more complicated than, hey, thou shalt not kill unless they're witches or gay or worshiping other gods. Thou shalt respect your parents, and if you don't, stone them to, like, what the fuck is that shit? Really? Where in the Bible you're thinking these ideas are coming from? Like, this is so obvious. I can't even believe that people think like these are intellectuals. Like, this is so obvious. This is so fucking obvious. Why is this even a debate? Have you guys read the Bible? Where is this good values coming from? They're leaving a city. The mom looks back at the city. She turns into a pillar of fucking salt. For what? For just looking at a city? Are you fucking serious? People are bad. Just drown them. Drown everybody. The children too. Yeah, everybody. We should rape our father. The same father that suggested the whole mob of people just offered us to them to rape. These are family values that people think the Bible is responsible for. Holy fucking shit. Like, is this, like, I feel like it's just right there and people are saying stuff. It's just right there. It's in the fucking book. It's telling you to cut off a woman's hand because she grabbed the nuts of somebody that was attacking her husband. It's in the Bible. That shit is in the Bible. It's telling you how to telling you to beat your fucking slaves. Jesus Christ, these are in the Quran. These are in the Bible. This is so obvious. I'm surprised that we're even debating these shit. Come on, like we have been gone through the Enlightenment age, and we're still talking about these things. These things should be ancient history by now. Oh my God, I missed a whole bunch of stuff. Let me go down. Oh, so by the way, that was just number one. Number two of the most Jordan. So I mentioned Jordan Peterson represents two classical way of trying to defend these nonsense, and the second classical way. And the interesting thing is that this is not just about religion. You see this in many places. By taking simple, this is the exact opposite of what science communicators try to do. Science communicators try to take complex ideas and they try to simplify it for mass consumption and for a bigger audience. They try to see how could they explain very complicated ideas to people that are not scientists. And this is what good science communicators do. And they simplify it. They simplify complex ideas. But what these people do is the exact opposite. They try to take simple ideas and they try to make it seem more complicated than they are. And there's a reason behind that. The reason is because their careers depend on it. And this is way older than Jordan Peterson and way older than, and it goes beyond religion. Like in law, for example, and many things get complicated on purpose. Contracts get complicated on purpose. Laws get complicated on purpose. So you constantly need to hire more lawyers, more people, more lawmakers, more. You're gonna need them. They write the whole thing in a way that you hire an entire team to be able to fucking decode the. This is where legal documents are so complicated sometimes, right? And that you do that in the finance industry. The whole derivatives are made complicated on purpose to make it difficult to regulate them. These are not secret, by the way. These are understood, and people know that this is happening. Financial models. I worked in the finance industry. Financial models are made complicated on purpose. Not because the financial models are meant to come up with the actual valuation of a company, but because you already had a valuation in mind, but you just need to come up with a complicated explanation for it so everybody believes in your valuation, and people think that there's no way that they could come up with how you came up with the valuation, and they need to pay you a shitload of money for them to be able to come up with that. This is so common. But so Islam did the same thing. You had just a simple story of Muhammad and just being a warlord and uniting all the Arabs against the Sassanids and against the Byzantine Empire. It was a simple story, right? But what happened to it? You made a whole system of hadith, and you come up with the chain of narration. And you made the whole shit, so you came up with the whole kalam, you came up with fiqh, you came up with every fucking verse in the Quran turned into something that you needed to write 10 books about. Every single dot in the Quran has been argued endlessly. Every single hadith has been argued over and over again. You could do this with nonsense, and it could be people think that this is all random nonsense. It's not random, okay? They come up with a very complicated, organized system that you eventually have to hire people to be able to even understand what's going on. And you can do that based on worlds that are not real. You could do that, for example, let's say Harry Potter, right? You could take Harry Potter and you could start writing fan fiction. And you could have consistent rules behind how this world works. So, for example, if you're writing fan fiction, you could be like, this whatever this person wrote makes no sense because there was a spell cast in this in this story against, and such a spell could never be cast by such a wand because this wand doesn't have dragon tears in it. So it's impossible for you to, and there's rules within this world, and you could be very consistent with your rules. So the world that you create has its own internal logic, and it's organized, and you have maybe different schools of thoughts. There's like, the Harry Potter world could be some disagreements. You're going to have different groups. You have 4 different schools of thoughts, just maybe based on the 4 houses. Oh, that's interesting. But the whole world is made up. But that doesn't mean that there's not a complicated system that you created that within that world makes sense, that it has its own internal logic. But now all of a sudden, because it looks complicated and because it has a consistent logic within it, it seems real and it seems like intelligent. And you end up thinking like, well, this whole thing cannot be just made up. Look at how fucking look at how many people. And this is why when you talk about when the Quran says like, it's telling me to beat my wife, that seems wrong. Then they're like, oh, you just not look. This is more complicated than that. Look at all these libraries of thought. Look at all these scholars. You just can't look at it that way. You have to look at the meaning behind it. Look at all these, thousands of years of scholars. Like, who are you you can't just read it and just think like you're just saying that. What are you talking about? Like, are you a scholar? It's more complicated than that. And like, yeah, but it's just saying, if you fear disobedience from your wife, beat her. Well, 2 first steps, but if those 2 first steps don't work, beat her the fuck up. That's what it says. I don't know what. Okay, yes, you have. I see your fucking libraries, and I see your Islamic universities and your Islamic scholars and all of that. But this book is telling me to beat my wife. It is saying that. Okay, it's right there. I'm right here. That doesn't seem that complicated. Okay. It's, you have to read it in context. Like, okay, I read it in context. It didn't make it any better. In fact, context usually makes it worse. Context always, here's the thing, go read a peaceful part of the Quran. No Muslim is going to tell you like, most Muslims are going to be like, oh, that's beautiful, but did you read it in context? No, they always ask for context when you read the shitty part of it, right? The part of the Quran, for example, that says, killing one person is like killing all mankind. First of all, even if it was just that fucking one verse, which is copied from Jewish texts, by the way, that's bullshit by itself. Killing one person is not like killing all humankind. Killing all humankind is definitely much worse. Okay, but let's give it some science and say like, okay, if that seems like it's telling you not to kill people. Did you read the next fucking verse? Did you read the next? First of all, if you read it in context, it tells you that this is what God was talking about. Bani Israel was talking about the Jews. So if you read it in context, it seems like it's not telling everybody to do it. It seems like that part of it is actually specific to some people. Because the next verse, it says, people that are spreading corruption on earth, crucify them. Okay, can you be more clear, Quran? What do you mean by corruption? Because if I think what you really mean by people that are spreading corruption, there are millions of people out there that I'm now supposed to go and crucify based on the Quran. Right after verse, this is the verse that Obama read from the Quran, trying to defend Islam, trying to say that Islam is a religion of peace. The verse that nobody that defends Islam at that point asked for Obama to read it in context. Nobody asked, well, did you read the next verse right after that? Because context makes this much worse. Asa is saying you can do this mental gymnastic with Mein Kampf. Yeah, exactly. I always want to say that, but always people are like, oh, Godwin. Oh, fuck Godwin, okay? You know why? You know why people compare things to Nazism? Because people don't know history, and this is the only example in history you could use, because whatever other examples you use, nobody knows shit about it. Okay? This is why we compare things to Nazism. Well, who am I going to compare it to? I'm going to compare it to Genghis Khan? People don't know the details behind the life of Genghis Khan. Everybody knows about Hitler. Everybody knows about World War II. What am I going to do? What other comparison in history can I make? Right? So yeah, I'm going to compare things to fucking Hitler, and I'm going to compare them to Mein Kampf, and I'm going to compare them to things that happened in World War II because it's what people get. Okay? So Godwin is a law. It's not a fallacy. People are like, oh, it's a Godwin fallacy. And it was never a fallacy. It was a law. And the reason it's a law because it's fucking useful. Anyways, yes. As Aces is mentioning, you could do this mental gymnastics with Mein Kampf. Let's try it. Let's try. Okay? We could say, just the same way people talk about the Quran, right? We could say, by the way, whoever is going to think about cutting this and making it seem like I'm actually excusing Mein Kampf, fuck you, okay, already. If you're cutting this out and making it seem like I'm a Nazi apologist. We can look at Mein Kampf and say, Hitler wasn't against all the Jews. He was just talking about the Jews, that some specific Jews at his time. And these Jews were actually bad. It doesn't mean all Jews are bad. You have to go look at what was happening. He was talking about some certain Jews that were doing something wrong, blah, blah, blah. And you know, Hitler was actually fighting for equality. Okay, he killed more white people than he killed Jews. Okay, did anybody ever tell you that he killed more white people? Okay, in fact, he wasn't against all the Jews. He just thinks that Jews shouldn't be in Germany. They should have their own country. He thinks Jews should be away and Germans should have their own country. He was pro-Israel. He wanted them out of Germany. He thinks that all countries survive better if everybody has their own country for their own race. It wasn't racist. And when, you have to understand that Aryanism is not Aryan is just an idea. Aryan is just a superior state of mind that you could be, and everybody could be an Aryan. Black people could be Aryan. Jews can be Aryan. We can all find the Aryan within us. Yeah, these things are not simple. You can't just read them literally. You have to think about what Hitler wanted to do for Germany. And when he's talking about the Aryan race, every country has to find the Aryan race within them and aim for that superiority. This is the superiority of a nation based on some ideas. Look what he did to the economy. Look, people in India are reading Mein Kampf. You know how popular Hitler is in India? Do you think he would be this popular among non-white people if we were just talking about white supremacy? Anyways, you could do that with anything. You could do that with green eggs and ham if you want to. In fact, I might do that. Super groovy is saying opens video editor. Oh, fuck you. Anyways, let's see. By the way, guys, once these videos are out, I'm so excited to actually go over different parts of it and review them. And also another thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to be at the. So what I did at the two events in Vancouver this weekend with Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris and Brett Weinstein as the moderator, what I did was I had the camera guy following me with him, and I had a microphone, and I was interviewing people before the show and asking them about the event, and while people were waiting for Jordan and Sam to come on the show, it was playing it. My interview was playing it live on the screen, and apparently some of that Jordan and Sam were listening to that as well. So, but I think some of it was good, some of it I could have done better. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to go on the subreddit for Sam Harris and the subreddit for Jordan Peterson. I'm going to ask them what kind of questions they want me to ask for from the audience. because what I also managed to do, I also interviewed Brett Weinstein after the second debate. And I'm going to see if Douglas Murray is going to be moderating the London and Dublin debates between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, which is going to be in July. So I think Brett Weinstein and Douglas Murray are going to talk about what experience he had as a moderator and what Douglas is going to do. I think his moderation is going to be different. I think it's going to get move away a bit because he's the moderator. I think it's going to move away a little bit from religion and faith. Maybe not, because Douglas Murray also had some views about the relevance of Christianity. But I think it's going to get a little bit more political, a little bit, and it's going to get a little bit more Islam related, I think. But I'm hoping to, once the interview that I did with Brett Weinstein and his views on the debate, once that gets released, I'm hoping Douglas Murray gets to see that as well. And I'm hoping that I get some feedback from Sam's and Jordan's followers on my questions that I asked the audience, to see what questions to ask in these when I'm doing the same thing in London and Dublin. Anyways, I think this is good for now. I will, once I have more updates regarding these events, I will update the description here to this once the YouTube video of this is out. Follow Pangburn Philosophy as well. The updates are going to be there first. And another thing I'm going to do is, once the videos for those are out, I'm going to take small little clips, small little highlights, and I'm going to, I think on Atheist Republic, or I might review them. B just saying get some rest. I need it, man. This has been insane. It's been insane. But I want to make sure that another thing that I want to tell you guys, this is very exciting. I think it's going to be happening, is that with Pangburn Philosophy, we might be doing a Secular Jihadists tour with me and Ali in Chicago and Washington. So look out for that as well. But it's not just going to be us. We're going to have some guests. Brian is saying it's cute how you love Sam. Adorable. Well, I try to make sure. Yeah, actually, that's a concern for me sometimes as well, because whenever you agree with somebody too much, you have to very important point, Brian. You have to make sure that it's not because of them, right? And you're always in danger of being like that, and you always have to. Whenever you see that you're agreeing with somebody more than 90% of the time, you have to ask yourself, is this because their arguments, or is it because of them? So yeah, it's very important. And sometimes you have to be like, no, you can't. What is it with Sam that I disagree with, for example? And there are a couple of examples that I found that you had to make sure that that you go and actively find stuff that you disagree with somebody, just to make sure that you're not following a cult of personality. It's been challenging sometimes with Sam to find that, but I have found a couple. If we could talk about that later. But I mean, here's the thing: you could say same thing with Jordan's fans, right? And you're right. A lot of my views that I have when I'm saying that I think Sam was right and Jordan was wrong, it might be completely biased. And as much as you try to adjust for that bias, it's impossible. Like, it's impossible to completely get rid of it. And I'm hoping that Brian, people like you point that out to me, and try to see if you think that Jordan is making more sense than Sam. You tell me why, and hopefully I can consider it without bias. And again, it's impossible to do it without complete bias. We're all biased, but you can try as much as you can to try to see what those biases are and try to look at reevaluating your views always as much as you possibly can. Everybody needs a hero Jew to worship. LOL, joking. Okay. Secular Jihadists, I'll call the video Arab talks candidly about Hitler. Okay. You know I'm not Arab, right? But here's the thing. When people think I'm Arab, I don't know if I should adjust, if I should tell them. I think it's racist. It's kind of the same way when people say you're gay and you say, I'm not. You're like, well, what's the problem with people thinking you're gay? Or do you have a problem with people thinking you're gay? So that means you're a homophobe. So if people think I'm Arab and I go out of my way to tell them I'm not, does that mean that I'm racist against Arabs? Because what I noticed with a lot of Iranians is that when people think that they're Arab, they get very offended. And they're like, no, I'm not an Arab. That's very ignorant of you to say that. But if you tell them like, oh, I thought you are Spanish, they're like, oh, you really thought so? So it kind of shows for many of them that it's not about educating the people. It's about them seeing Arabs as inferior and they seeing Europeans as superior to themselves. So I don't know if anybody thinks I'm an Arab, should I just not say anything and just be like, why would I fix that mistake? Because there's nothing wrong, right? Armin is Aryan. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how, but for the thing is that a lot of Iranians want to think that, but again, a lot of Iranians we get offended when I tell them that their race has got mixed with so many other races that they're probably less than 50% Aryan by now. Super Grimy is saying, I just hope people don't dismiss everything JP is saying because of his religious side. That's a fair point, Super Grimy. I think actually once you watch the debates, whenever you get to, you notice that the main point of agreement between Sam and Jordan was on free speech stuff. And a lot of the audience, whenever those agreements were highlighted, loved it and clapped, because I think a lot of people see both Sam and Jordan as heroes, and they want them to get along. So they just wish that they wouldn't disagree and just focus on their agreements and just like hold hands and, it was like saying kumbaya. But I'm more interested in the disagreements because, the disagreement, if they both said the same thing, there wouldn't be anything challenging going on between them. And we wouldn't learn anything. We'd be like, yay, free speech, yay, anti-PC stuff, yay. Yeah, government shouldn't be forcing us to do this and that, or whatever. Okay. How many times do we have to say those fucking, yeah, okay. Thank you for being a force of free speech. Thank you. You keep doing that. But disagreements are more interesting. Aren't they? I think they are. Anyways, I think I have to go. Peterson using postmodernism to deconstruct postmodernism using to what? Yeah, actually, Brian, you're right. He sounds like he hates postmodernism, and he sounds like a postmodernist. Am I crazy to think that? Doesn't he sound like oh, what does God mean? God could mean anything. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by word? What do you mean? What? You say you hate isn't that the classic postmodernist talk? Isn't that postmodernism? Isn't like, just come, okay, what do you mean? Why do we get so hung up on definition? Well, just fucking define something so we could move forward. Yes, it's brilliant. So you're saying it's all an act and he's just trying to show how ridiculous it is by being ridiculous, Brian? I don't think so. Anyways, Teresa, idolizing Armin is halal though. No, it's not. It's haram. But anyways, good night, y'all. I love you guys. Sorry Ali couldn't be here. Ali said, I didn't want to cancel tonight's Q&A. but Ali's been very busy as well. But we're going to be definitely doing this Q&A next time, both of us. Tell us what the next Q&A needs to be. Let us know. Message us. BJ saying, thanks, Armin, and everyone cheers. Mike is saying, if someone is 90% fundamentally wrong, but you agree with the rest of 10%, it doesn't make him legit. JP is pseudo-intellectual. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with that a little bit. But again, it's not about the people again. It's about the ideas, right? So I guess you can still appreciate that 10%, right? I guess, right? Live long and prosper. Yeah, you too, Mike. You can learn from people you disagree with. You definitely can. Super creamy. You're right. I don't know how to. I keep wanting to end this, but I don't want to say goodbye to you guys. You guys are awesome. Anyways, love you. Always this is my awkward ending. Bye, guys.
The Secular Jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadists.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air, and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.